You already possess it. That which you long for is not something to chase, to wait for, or to hope one day might arrive. It is already within your reach, because consciousness is the only reality. Everything you experience springs forth from the assumption you carry within. To change your world, you must change your concept of yourself. Act as if you have everything, not as a performance, but as a knowing. If you desire wealth, assume the feeling of being wealthy, not tomorrow, now. Walk as one who lacks nothing. Think from the end, not of the end. You are not a beggar knocking on the door of life. You are life itself shaping form through your belief. Your imagination is not idle. It is the creative power of the universe, filtered through the lens of your awareness. When you imagine, and imagine with feeling, you create. You do not wait for the world to show you signs before you believe. You believe first, and the world reflects it. The moment you accept that you already are what you desire to be, the world bends to that assumption. If you want love, live as one who is loved. If you seek healing, walk as though your body is already restored. If you long for success, carry yourself with the quiet confidence of one who has arrived. You don't need evidence from the outside. The only proof you require is the feeling within. That feeling is the bridge between the unseen and the seen. There is no power greater than assumption. What you assume to be true of yourself will become true, not because the world changes first, but because your inner world shifts and the outer must comply. There is no external authority deciding your fate. You are the operant power. You decide what is real by assuming its reality. Imagination, when sustained with belief, is causation. You are not imagining for the sake of escape. You are imagining to align with the truth that you already are what you seek. The moment you drop the illusion of lack and embody the fullness of the wish fulfilled, the world rearranges itself around you. The doors you thought were closed were never locked. They simply awaited your vibration to match the key. Dwell in the state of the wish fulfilled. Feel it in your body. Let it saturate your thoughts, your speech, your actions. Let the inner conversation mirror the reality you choose, not the one you observe. For what you observe is simply the echo of what you once believed. Shift the belief, and the echo must change. It is not arrogance to act as if. It is faith. It is the recognition that all things are already yours, and all that is required is alignment with the state where those things are naturally expressed. Act as if you have everything, because in truth, you do. All creation is finished. The version of you who already has it all exists now. Step into that version, let your assumptions lead, and your reality will follow. Everything you experience in life, every joy, every hardship, every pattern that repeats, is not random, nor is it dictated by outside forces beyond your control. It is a reflection of your inner world, your self-concept, and the assumptions you consistently hold to be true. Consciousness is the only reality. What you are conscious of being, you become. What you accept as true in your imagination. Most people live as if the outer world has power over them, reacting to circumstances, hoping for things to change, praying for miracles, waiting for a sign. But nothing changes until your consciousness changes. What you experience is the result of a pattern of thoughts, feelings, and assumptions that have become fixed in your awareness. You may think you are simply observing life, but you are creating it. You may believe you are responding to conditions, but you are perpetuating them. The truth is radical. Nothing exists outside of consciousness. Your world is not happening to you. It is happening through you. When you begin to recognize that your thoughts and beliefs are not harmless mental habits, but powerful creative forces, everything shifts. You are not a victim of fate. You are the author, and the book you are writing is your life. This means that the stories you tell yourself in silence, the things you accept as just the way it is, are actually the blueprint of your future. If you tell yourself that you are not good enough, that money is hard to come by, that love never lasts, or that you are unlucky, these are not just thoughts. These are instructions. You are impressing them upon your subconscious, and your subconscious faithfully produces them as fact. You are always in a state, you are always identifying with something, whether consciously or unconsciously, and the state you occupy colors everything you see and experience. If you are in a state of lack, everything in your life will confirm that lack. If you are in a state of fulfillment, even before the physical evidence appears, your world will begin to shift to match that new self-concept. Because the world is not separate from you, it is yourself pushed out. Consciousness does not change through effort or force. It changes through attention and assumption. What you give your mental attention to, what you emotionally invest in, what you believe even without evidence, this is what becomes your reality. If you want to be healthy, you must stop thinking like someone who is sick. If you want to be successful, you must stop identifying with struggle. You cannot continue to affirm limitation and expect expansion. You must become, inwardly, the version of yourself who already has what you desire. This is not about pretending or deluding yourself, it is about accepting a higher truth. There are infinite versions of you already existing. Every possible state is available now. The only thing required is that you shift your awareness to the state you wish to occupy. You do this by assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled. You do this by living mentally and emotionally as though what you desire is already true. And as you persist in that assumption, your outer world begins to conform to your new inner reality. The old self will fight to remain. It will tell you that this is foolish, that things don't change that easily, that reality is fixed and hard and unmoved by thought. But those are just old beliefs, old assumptions, doing what they always do, trying to survive. You must starve the old concept of self by withdrawing your attention from it and nourishing the new concept by dwelling in it repeatedly, naturally, and consistently. There is no limit to what you can be, do, or have, except the limits you accept in your consciousness. These limits may have been taught to you, reinforced by your upbringing, repeated by those around you, but they are not laws. They are simply patterns of belief, and all beliefs can be changed. You are not bound by your past. You are not defined by your circumstances. You are defined only by what you accept as true now, and what you accept as true now is shaping what you will experience next. The transformation begins within. Do not wait for proof. Do not wait for someone to give you permission. Begin now. Begin by recognizing that your world is your mirror, and that the reflection you see is only the outpicturing of your dominant state of consciousness. If you do not like what you see, do not fight the mirror. Do not try to rearrange the reflection. Change the image you hold within, and the mirror will respond. When you truly grasp that consciousness is the only reality, your entire approach to life changes. You no longer strive from a place of desperation. You no longer beg or plead with the world to treat you better. You understand that your world treats you exactly as you assume you deserve to be treated. And so you shift. You elevate your self-concept. You begin to think, feel, and act from a new place, not because the outer has changed, but because you now know that the outer is simply a result of the inner. It is not a matter of fixing the world. It is a matter of fixing your awareness. And your awareness is always under your control. You may have let it wander, let it dwell on things you didn't want. Let it be conditioned by fear or doubt or memory. But now, with this understanding, you can reclaim it. You can direct it. You can choose, moment by moment, what you identify with, what you dwell on, what you give life to. Because what you accept within, you express without. What you affirm internally, you manifest externally. So when you hear the phrase, act as if you have everything, it is not about acting in the theatrical sense. It is about inhabiting a state so fully, so naturally, that the world has no choice but to reflect it. It is about knowing with quiet confidence that all that you desire is already yours, because it is already accepted in consciousness. To live from the end is to shift your inner state so completely that the world outside has no choice but to rearrange itself to reflect your assumption. It is not about hoping, wishing, or wanting. It is about being. When you live from the end, you no longer see your desire as something distant or separate from you. You enter the scene mentally and emotionally where your desire is already fulfilled, And you dwell in that feeling as if it were your only truth. You make the end real within you. And because imagination is the creative power of the universe, what you embody inwardly must take shape outwardly. This principle is not about forcing things to happen, nor is it about manipulating others or circumstances. It is about alignment. When you align your inner world with the state of the wish fulfilled, you no longer live in conflict or contradiction. You no longer ask, when will it happen or how will it come? Because you know that it has already happened in the invisible realm of consciousness. And its physical appearance is simply the echo of your assumption. You don't live toward your desire, you live from it. There is a vast difference. When you think of what you want, you place it at a distance, you keep it in the future as something yet to be attained. But when you think from what you want, you embody it, you become one with it, you identify with it so deeply that you can no longer see yourself apart from it. You do not wait for evidence to believe. You believe, and the evidence appears. This is the true faith, an inner knowing that precedes the outer manifestation. Living from the end requires that you abandon the old self, the version of you that lacked, that waited, that hoped things would change. You step into a new self-concept, the one who already has, already is, already knows. You revise your internal identity, and the world mirrors that new version back to you. This is not arrogance or fantasy, it is spiritual law. You cannot receive that which you are not in harmony with. The vibration of your inner state must match the reality you wish to experience. Feel it now. Feel what it's like to have it, to be it, to live it. Let that feeling dominate your awareness. Let it color your thoughts, your reactions, your choices. If you were already successful, how would you carry yourself? If you were already loved, how would you speak? If you were already healed, how would you move? These are not idle questions. They are invitations to embody a new state, a new frequency of being. And once that embodiment becomes natural, once it is no longer something you're trying to do, but simply who you are, then the world begins to conform. The mind may resist. It may say, but I don't see it, but I don't feel it yet. But the facts contradict it. This is where your creative power is truly tested. Will you believe the senses, which only report what has already been accepted in the past? Or will you believe the unseen truth you have chosen to occupy now? Your senses will always catch up to your assumption, but they are never the starting point. The inner feeling is the cause, the outer fact is the effect. This is why you must persist. You cannot dip in and out of the state of the wish fulfilled. You must dwell there. You must wake up in it, move through the day with it, fall asleep in it. You must make it your dwelling place, your inner sanctuary, not by struggle, but by surrendering to the feeling of already being the one you want to be. And as you make this inner shift, your reality reshapes itself to match. To live from the end is to claim the result before you see it. It is to assume the position of fulfillment before the world gives you permission. It is to anchor yourself in the invisible, knowing that all creation is finished and that what you desire already exists in the eternal now. You do not make it happen, you select it. You enter the scene in consciousness and you remain there until it becomes real to you. That inner reality, once accepted, will objectify itself in time. Do not be concerned with how it will come. The how is not your domain. The bridge of incidents, the sequence of events that brings your assumption into form, will unfold naturally, often in ways you could never have predicted. Your job is not to manipulate the bridge, but to remain faithful to the end. To feel it real, to act, speak, and think from the knowing that it is already done. You may feel doubt at first. You may feel the pull of the old self, the temptation to react to appearances. But appearances are not reality, they are reflections. If the mirror shows you a face you do not like, you do not reach out to change the glass, you change your expression, and the reflection changes. So too with life. You change your inner state, and the outer conditions must follow. There is no need to force change from the outside when you understand this truth. You bypass resistance, delay, and frustration by going straight to the source, your imagination. You assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. You dwell in it, you trust it, and you let the world do what it must do. Reflect the state you have occupied within. You are never denied your desire. You are only ever denied entrance into the state where that desire is naturally expressed. Everything you want exists already. You are not creating it, you are becoming it. You are aligning with the version of yourself where that reality is normal, expected, and complete. The question is not whether it will happen. The question is whether you are willing to surrender to the feeling that it already has. This is the art of living from the end. It is the choice to abandon fear, doubt, and separation, and to step into the reality of fulfillment with full conviction. When you do, the world has no choice but to obey. Everything begins with feeling. The secret of manifestation is not found in effort or external striving, but in the ability to generate and sustain a particular inner atmosphere. You do not wait for circumstances to give you permission to feel successful, loved, or abundant. You feel it now, in the silence of your own mind, in the invisible chamber of imagination. And that feeling becomes the seed from which your new reality will grow. The inner world is the workshop of all creation. What you feel yourself to be, consistently and with conviction, you inevitably become. What you feel about life, life becomes to you. You are not a passive observer of your circumstances, you are the cause. The world reflects your inner convictions, and those convictions are shaped by your dominant feelings. Feelings are not vague emotions, but tangible states of consciousness that carry creative power. They are the energy signatures of belief. When you feel joy, not as a reaction to something, but as a conscious choice, you emit the vibration of one who has already received. When you feel gratitude before the thing appears, you declare that it is already yours. The feeling precedes the fact. The inner movement of emotion is the signal sent to the universe, and the outer world responds. Most people wait to feel good until something good happens, but that is a reversal of cause and effect. You must feel the desired state first, without outer justification, and allow the law of life to mirror it. You do not need proof to begin feeling successful. You do not need someone to love you in order to feel loved. These feelings, when cultivated deliberately, reshape your consciousness. And consciousness is the only substance out of which reality is made. Nothing exists outside of consciousness, and consciousness responds to the feelings you accept as true. To feel it real is to close your eyes and turn inward. It is to build a scene in your imagination that implies the fulfillment of your desire, and then to lose yourself in that scene emotionally. You breathe in the atmosphere of your chosen reality. You hear the words you would hear if it were true. You walk in the place where your desire is already a fact. You allow the joy, the relief, the certainty of that fulfilled state to wash over you. And in that moment, you have entered a new state of being. You have activated the law. You have spoken the only language that creation understands. This is not daydreaming or fantasy. It is conscious creation. It is claiming dominion over your inner world and recognizing that feeling is the key that unlocks every door. The feeling of the wish fulfilled is not something you chase, it is something you generate. It is a deliberate act of faith, an inner assumption that defies appearances and says, I already am. And once you feel yourself to be it, the world bends to your new identity. You cannot fake a feeling, but you can cultivate it. At first it may seem unfamiliar, like wearing clothes that don't quite fit. But the more you practice inhabiting the feeling of your desire fulfilled, the more natural it becomes. You become less reactive to the world and more responsive to your inner truth. You stop chasing results and start embodying them. The feeling is the reality. The physical manifestation is simply the shadow it casts. Think of the feeling not as a reaction, but as a tool. When you feel lack, the world shows you more reasons to believe in lack. When you feel abundance, the world reveals its riches. It is not the outer condition that produces the feeling, it is the feeling that produces the condition. This is why you must become a master of your emotional state. You must learn to withdraw attention from the facts that contradict your desire and place your focus on the feeling that your desire is already fulfilled. The mind will argue. It will point to the facts, the logic, the evidence. But logic is not creation, it is reflection. The outer world is only ever showing you what you have felt to be true within. If you desire change, you must feel differently. You must feel yourself into the new state and persist there even when nothing outside encourages you. This is the true discipline of the creative life, to remain faithful to the feeling of your ideal in the absence of proof. To act, think, and feel from a state that has not yet appeared to the senses, and to trust that the law cannot fail. Gratitude is one of the most powerful feelings to dwell in because it implies receipt. When you feel grateful, not because something happened, but because you have assumed it has already happened, you are sending a clear signal that your desire is fulfilled. You are not asking, you are receiving. You are not yearning, you are knowing. That is the essence of faith, not belief in something vague, but certainty in the unseen. The unseen felt is the foundation upon which the seen is built. When you understand this, you stop chasing, you stop reacting. You become calm, centered, and assured, because you know that the inner feeling is the beginning of all things. You return again and again to the state of being where your desire is already true. You feel it in the core of your being. You act from it, speak from it, and think from it, and the outer world, being nothing more than a mirror, reflects it back to you. There is no effort in this. The law does not respond to force, but to alignment. The feeling must be natural, not strained. It must be genuine, not manufactured. That is why imagination is so vital. It allows you to create a scene that evokes the feeling effortlessly. A simple scene, a conversation, a gesture, a glance, can carry the emotional charge of fulfillment. And once you find the right scene, you replay it, enter it every day, perhaps every night before sleep, and you let the feeling saturate your consciousness. That is all that is required. The outer world does not change because you work harder or worry more. It changes because you have changed. And you have changed because you felt differently. All things follow the inner feeling. It is the golden thread that weaves your life together. Every experience you ever had was preceded by a feeling, whether conscious or unconscious. You do not attract what you want. You attract what you are. And what you are is defined by how you consistently feel. Every state of being has its own behavior, its own thoughts, and its own assumptions. When you adopt a new state, you naturally begin to express the qualities of that state. You think differently, you speak differently, and you walk through the world as though something has shifted deep within you. This is not about forcing change through action, but rather allowing action to flow effortlessly from a new identity. When you assume the state of the one who already has, the way you carry yourself changes without effort. You are not pretending. You are revealing a deeper truth that has always been available to you the moment you consented to feel it real. Imagine for a moment that you are already the person you wish to be. How do you speak? How do you respond to others? What do you believe is possible? What do you no longer tolerate or fear? When you feel yourself into this version of you, there is no need to strive or push. The state begins to express itself through you. Your new identity takes over, and everything you do flows from that deeper acceptance. This is the essence of acting as if. Not pretending for show, but living from the conviction that it is already done. To act as if does not mean to lie to yourself or to fake it in the eyes of others. It means to honor the inner world as the true cause and to express outwardly what you have already claimed inwardly. If you have accepted that you are now successful, you will no longer carry the energy of desperation. If you believe you are now loved and cherished, your words and your presence will radiate wholeness. The outer action becomes effortless because it is born from a place of inner truth rather than external striving. There is a quiet power that comes from living this way. You are no longer a beggar asking for change. You are a creator expressing the reality you have chosen. The people around you begin to feel it. They may not know why they are drawn to you or why doors open with ease, but it is because you are walking in the embodiment of your chosen state. This embodiment becomes magnetic. Life responds not to what you say, but to who you are being. When you shift states, your environment begins to shift with you. This is not because the world outside has changed on its own, but because you have changed the lens through which you experience the world. Acting as if is not manipulation. It is alignment. It is choosing to live from the truth of your desire fulfilled and allowing that truth to inform every word, every choice, every step you take. Suppose your desire is to be financially free. You begin by assuming that state inwardly, feeling the relief, the confidence, the expansiveness that comes with abundance. Then, without forcing anything, your daily actions begin to mirror that state. You no longer speak of lack. You do not dwell in anxiety. You become generous in thought, gracious in conversation, wise in decision. These behaviors are not acts of willpower, but natural expressions of your assumed identity. The person who has already arrived does not live in panic. They live in peace, and that peace draws to them what matches it. It is the same with love, with success, with purpose. When you dwell in the state of being loved, you naturally carry yourself with self-respect. You treat others with kindness, not from need, but from fullness. You no longer chase affection or attention because the feeling of love is already alive within you. From that fullness, you attract others who reflect it back. It was never about changing them. It was about changing you. The beautiful thing is, you do not need to know how your desire will unfold. You only need to dwell in the feeling of its fulfillment and allow your actions to align. The how is not your concern. What matters is the inner assumption and the outward expression that flows from it. You do not sit idle waiting for miracles. You walk, talk, and live from the awareness that the miracle is already present in you. Your actions become inspired rather than forced. Your choices become intuitive rather than calculated. You become the living embodiment of the thing you have claimed. Every morning is a new opportunity to choose the state you will live from. You can wake up and rehearse the old story, or you can step into the new identity. This is the great gift of consciousness. You can decide who you are. And once you make that decision and feel it to be true, life begins to mirror it in ways both subtle and profound. The people you meet, the opportunities that arise, the words that come to you, they all begin to change because you have changed. This is not about performing for others. It is about remaining loyal to your inner world. The outer must follow the inner, for that is the law. You are not trying to impress anyone. You are simply honoring the reality you have chosen and trusting that the feeling sustained will materialize into form. And while you wait, you do not wait passively. You live from the end. You dress, speak, move, and plan from the state of fulfillment, not because you are trying to force anything, but because you know that what you feel and do from within becomes what you live without. Do not be discouraged by appearances. If you are tempted to return to old patterns, remember that your outer world is only the echo of previous assumptions. Hold firm to your new state. Act from it, even when the senses scream otherwise. This is how you build faith. Not blind belief, but inner certainty rooted in the felt reality of your desire. Each time you act as the one who already has, you are deepening the groove of your new identity, and that identity must eventually externalize. You are not bound by the past. You are not limited by current facts. You are only ever one decision away from a new life, the decision to accept a new state and live from it without compromise. The world you experience is an extension of your state of being, and your state of being is chosen moment by moment through what you feel, assume, and express. So when you walk today, walk as the one who, when you speak, speak from the end. When you think, let it be the thought of one who is already fulfilled. This is not fantasy. It is the mechanism by which reality is shaped. You do not need anything to change first. You only need to accept the change within and let it guide you in silence. You must persist in the assumption that your desire is already fulfilled, not once, not occasionally, but continuously until that assumption hardens into fact. Persistence is the secret ingredient that transforms invisible belief into visible reality. You do not merely wish or hope or try once and then give up because the world outside hasn't changed fast enough. You remain faithful to the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Even in the face of contradictory evidence, you discipline your inner world to conform to the reality you have chosen. And that loyalty becomes the cause of its eventual manifestation. The outer world is slow, echoing the vibrations of the inner world that have been sustained. If you plant a seed, you do not dig it up each day to see if it has grown. You water it, you expose it to sunlight, and you trust the process. The same is true of your assumptions. When you feel the truth of something within, You nurture that inner state, you live from it, and you protect it from doubt. You do not allow the temporary delay in physical results to convince you that the invisible has failed. The invisible is always working. It is shaped by your most persistent state of being. When you assume something to be true and dwell in that assumption with conviction, the entire world begins to bend to match it. This may not happen overnight. It may unfold in unexpected ways. But if you remain firm in the inner knowing that what you have imagined is already yours, you will see it crystallize. The delay is not denial. The delay is often the time it takes for your own consciousness to stabilize, for your identity to fully embody the state you have claimed. Once that identity becomes natural, the results become inevitable. It is not that life is testing you, nor is there some force holding back your blessing. It is your own persistence in a new state that brings about change. If you waver between belief and doubt, you send conflicting messages to the creative power within. One moment you affirm that you are already the person you desire to be, and the next you question it because circumstances seem unchanged. But circumstances are always changing. They are fluid and reactive. What must remain unchanged is your inner conviction. That is the anchor. That is the mold into which reality must be poured. There is a rhythm to creation that obeys the sustained mood. You may feel inspired one day, full of certainty and vision. But if you abandon that feeling the next day because of what your senses report, then you break the flow. You must dwell in the feeling until it becomes your new normal. You must return to it in your imagination again and again, especially when things seem the most stagnant. That is when the temptation to revert to the old self is the strongest. But the old self can only return if you permit it. Persisting in a new state means protecting your mind. It means refusing to speak from the place of lack or defeat. It means choosing silence over contradiction, calm over panic, gratitude over complaint. You are not doing this for show. You are doing it because you understand that what you consistently assume, you eventually live. You must become the guardian of your consciousness, choosing again and again to dwell in the end. No matter how often the outer world tries to tempt you back into the old way of being, you choose the new. You feel the new. You live the new. And over time, this feeling becomes stable. You no longer have to try to believe, you simply know. It becomes second nature to you, just as your old beliefs once felt natural. The shift is subtle but profound. When you reach this point, manifestation becomes inevitable, not because of external action or manipulation, but because consciousness has impressed itself deeply enough to cause matter to reflect it. And the reflection is always faithful, but only after you have been faithful to it first. Do not underestimate the power of repetition. Each time you return to the feeling of your desire fulfilled, you are strengthening the signal. You are impressing the subconscious mind with a new image, and the subconscious, once impressed, moves heaven and earth to fulfill the pattern it has been given. But it cannot be given a pattern you only visit once or twice. It must be nourished, believed in, and felt as real until it becomes automatic. Then, and only then, does the outer world begin to comply. But this process is quiet. It happens in the privacy of your own heart and mind. No one needs to see it, no one needs to understand it. Your job is not to convince others of your dream, but to convince yourself. And that conviction comes through consistency. You must make the inner state your home, not your vacation spot. You cannot visit the state occasionally and expect it to dominate your reality. It must become your dwelling place, the place you wake up to and return to each night. Many abandon their assumptions too early. They say, I believed for a week, for a month, and nothing changed. But belief is not measured in time, it is measured in depth and consistency. Did you believe without wavering? Did you persist when everything told you to give up? Did you choose your new identity even when the world mocked you with the opposite? These are the questions that shape the outcome. It is not about blind faith, it is about disciplined inner attention. You do not let go of what you desire just because it hasn't appeared. You hold it tighter in consciousness until it has no choice but to appear. Persistence also brings clarity. When you remain in a state long enough, you begin to notice how your thoughts and behaviors evolve. You begin to receive insights, nudges, ideas, and opportunities that match your new assumption. The path reveals itself only to the one who walks it. As you stay faithful to the end result in your imagination, the means to that result become visible. This is not magic, it is law. The inner world always organizes the outer, and persistence is how you give it time to do so. You must trust your imagination more than you trust your senses. You must value the unseen more than the seen. What you assume within yourself is more real than what currently surrounds you. What surrounds you is only the residue of old assumptions, but what you create inwardly, what you continue to feel, see, and believe, is the truth that is coming. So you hold that image. You embody that state. You remain there not because of what the world says, but because you know the world is following you. You are the creator, not the reactor. You are the cause, not the effect. You are the one who decides what reality will be, and that decision must be upheld with unwavering persistence. You do not get to choose only when it's easy. You choose when it's difficult, when it's silent, when it's slow. You choose again and again, until the new state is no longer something you're striving to reach. It's who you are.